Drew, I would like to echo what Richard talked about and just the massive police presence and the response to it. Our station is not too far from Eskenazi, and from the parking lot, I could hear the police sirens going. They just kept going all the way until we got here. And when you get here, you can see where they've come. Well, Drew, humanity. Whitfield's mother used that word when I first met her in person several weeks ago. She says police lost sight of her son's humanity. We made the trip down here to Bartholomew County to try to talk to him, and it's been a difficult 24 hours, as you can imagine. And so he and his family are still not ready to talk. Settled on the city's far east side, they're hoping to provide some exposure to inner city kids who may not ever get to see anything like this. He just walked over here to Pennsylvania and Washington, and there is trash burning in the street. You can see the glass from where a bullet shattered this door. Now, this shooting happened Sunday night on Ramadan. It was the last day of a Muslim holiday. I will not be joining them on the field for Saturday's game. Instead, I'm here right now representing Team News Channel 8. I don't know if you can hear it, but the music just started. It is definitely a vibe. You can look around and see just how packed the crowd is. Now, people are gearing up, preparing to hear from Howard Hewitt, Stephanie Mills, El DeBarge, and of course, my favorite, the OJs. Several of the founders are laid to rest on this land. When they came here in the 1830s, all of this area was a wilderness. But descendants say their bravery helped turn this place into a home that would eventually grow into a community of several hundred.
Multicultural Spotlight, presented by Chevrolet. Find new roads.
Carla Duffy's story has been a reference point for many of the home appraisal stories I've done over the last year. You may remember her saying she had to whitewash her home to get an adequate appraisal. And advocates say her story is just one of many, spotlighting decades of discriminatory practices in home loans and home appraisals.
I don't have the expertise or the skills to say, this is how you fix it. I just knew how to say, this is wrong.
In 2020, Carla Duffy was hoping to use the equity in her remodeled home to buy her grandparents' home in one of Indy's historically black neighborhoods. But appraisals came in much lower than she expected. So she decided to remove all signs of her ethnicity from the home and have a white friend stand in for her.
For him to be my brother in this, and to stand in and basically say, have them believe that I'm not black.
Amy Nelson with the Fair Housing Center of Central Indiana says that Duffy's bravery in sharing her story may help others step forward, and says homes in black neighborhoods have historically been undervalued.
They were never valued at the rate that they should have been. And so that bias is already baked into the appraisal process.
Duffy's story, along with others, were cited in the original plan development for HUD's Property Appraisal and Valuation Equity, or PAVE. Now complete, the plan aims at closing the racial wealth gap by addressing misvaluations for families and communities of color.
The appraisal industry has been able to operate without much oversight.
Key points include creating guards against discrimination, driving up industry accountability, diversifying the appraisal industry, empowering consumers to take action, and give researchers better access to data.
Some items in there that I think will have some immediate action. There's some others that are certainly going to take some time. There are some other recommendations that me as an advocate wish might have gone a bit further.
Duffy says her advocacy work now is building another type of generational wealth, knowledge.
And in standing up for yourself, you're standing up for a whole community.
Reporting in Indianapolis, Katiera Winfrey, Wish TV, wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook. Typically, Johnson Simon likes to paint on an easel, but he's a bit unconventional at times, and he's okay with that. It's brought him success as an artist and book illustrator for former MLB player Carl Erskine.
I like to be free without imitation.
He nearly died at birth due to lack of oxygen, so being diagnosed with cerebral palsy is a miracle.
To God be the glory.
Physically, he can't play basketball, football, or dance, but putting brush to canvas, he can transport himself there, putting in hours of work in his art studio in the Harrison Center.
They are sometimes not able to control my hand. as I want to, but I like to become part of the artwork so you can see the movement in the artwork.
He works with ArtMix, a nonprofit that specializes in improving access to art for people of all ability levels, showcasing his Indy 500 themed art this month. Sarah Jane Bryant is Outreach Events Manager and says Simon shows young artists the possibilities.
Whether you're nonverbal, you use a wheelchair, have autism on the spectrum, art really is that unifying piece that communicates beyond words.
Simon says continued support has built his confidence over the years, and he hopes to help build that in others who find inspiration in his story.
You don't give up. Just believe in yourself and keep the faith.
It's been a pretty nonstop coming and going with students coming here to pay their respects. The memorial just continues to grow here at the Unfinished Piece statue on campus. You can take a look behind me and see all of the notes, all of the flowers and candles on the ground. Now, this is a moment of sadness, but students say it's also symbolic, showing the value in facing this tragedy together. On a campus of more than 50,000, tragic news has spread fast.
The second thing on my mind was I had to tell my parents that I was not the student in question, because by that time they hadn't revealed the name. So I heard parents were worrying.
Fellow student Varan Chaheda was killed in his dorm room, and police say his roommate, Jimin Shah, killed him.
A lot of people would feel lost in the situation and stuff. I felt lost when I heard about it.
Camille Larasan is the Purdue Asian Student Union Board president and says the tragedy resonates deeply within the Asian and international student population.
The perpetrator and the victim are Asian Americans, which is a contradiction.
The memorial growing on campus, along with the candles, flowers, and notes, has seen a lot of tears and welcomed prayers. But the healing, that's not here quite yet.
It's so heartbreaking. I got a couple texts from my parents and stuff, and all I could think about was if it was me and stuff. So I have so much grief and so much sorrow for his family.
She says the Asian groups on campus have a series of resources hoping to ensure people feeling the pain the most don't feel alone.
I can't say I feel their pain, but I can imagine how hard it is to take a huge loss like that.
And so far, police haven't given a motive, only earlier saying that the attack was unprovoked. Now, it's not clear if the suspect and the victim were friends outside of being roommates, but the victim will have a visitation coming up this Saturday in the Indianapolis area. Reporting on the campus of Purdue University, Katiera Winfrey, Wish TV, wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook.
Well, the right to skate for black people was just as much part of civil rights movements as was sitting at an all-white lunch counter or refusing to sit at the back of the bus.
And even when they did earn the right, people alive today to tell the story tell News 8's multicultural reporter Katiera Winfrey discrimination still seeped in.
During the 50s and 60s, black people had few options to gather outside of churches. Skating rinks would serve as meeting places for political rallies and planning. Miss Nina is 80 years old and still skates every week. She's able to provide a first-hand account of Indy's deep black skate culture.
Once you pick up the skating, it's in your blood.
Miss Nina, she's been skating for a long time. And at 80 years old, she's a testament that forever lasts a long time.
Once you get it, it's there forever if you're a real skater.
74 years ago, she put on her first pair of strap-on skates, and she hasn't slowed down, showing the younger skaters she still got it.
Then I make sure I'm not dressed like grandma now.
Early on, skating was posh. A 1963 article in the Indianapolis Recorder newspaper read, "None of the white Indianapolis skating rinks are patronized by Negroes." And once integration happened, there were some things, if you were black, you just didn't and couldn't do.
And it was so strict. Couldn't skate backwards till they said so. Couldn't wear a hat. Get in a fight, they had to call the police, dogs on children. I'm like, we're not having that.
In the early days, she says many of the skating rinks were burned, some due to racism, some vandalism. So the community raised a tent skating ring in the late 50s near 19th and Hillside.
Roller skating was considered, they call it ghetto. We called it slum. Oh, they're from the slum if you roller skated.
That tent broadened the racial divide. A September 1950 article written in the Indianapolis Recorder outlined a proposed ban. The skating ring is situated on a line dividing a predominantly Negro neighborhood and an all-white community. The article added that the white residents complained about it being too loud.
So after the tent, they built the skating ring back up again, and that was in the 50s, late 50s, and it was 25 cents to get in. You wouldn't believe how hard it was to get 25 cents.
Getting 25 cents is a lot easier these days, but the stories she can tell are priceless. And if you happen to see her pass you on the floor, consider yourself lucky.
And I fell in love with skating ever since.
And Miss Nina hasn't kept the fun to herself. Her children are skaters, and she says her son Michael is the best, and even her grandkids get out there on the floor with her. Now, this was part 2 of my series on Black skate culture. We've made it easy for you to go back and see part 1. Just grab your phone right now and scan the QR code on your screen. It will take you right to the Inside Story page on wishtv.com. Reporting in the studio, I'm Wish TV News 8's multicultural reporter, Katiera Winfrey.
These twin drivers are Olivia and Sophia Washer. And let's be clear, Olivia in the driver's seat is the oldest, but they are both taking off on a new journey.
In my dream, I want to go to Colorado, but I know in reality that's not going to happen right away.
Taking a break from classes at Indiana School for the Deaf, through an interpreter, they share their journey to becoming licensed drivers and their hopes for the road.
I wanted to travel, but we've got school, so I can't take off just yet.
More than 1 year ago, Jennifer Alka with Easter Seals Crossroads spearheaded research that ultimately moved the Bureau of Motor Vehicles to add American Sign Language as an option.
The videos were readily available for each question in American Sign Language.
Sign language is the Washer's native language, and like most other people who are deaf, signing and written English are not the same.
I'll read the English question and I'll translate it in my head into American Sign Language and think, how would I sign this?
Being deaf, she says, actually makes for a better driver. Alka says not being able to hear heightens other senses.
And I think we're more alert than the average person because we rely on our vision and our eyesight so much.
The Washers say before now, taking the test in English was a hassle, but more of their peers now feel a little bit more comfortable trying.
We both have encouraged our friends and other students here at the Indiana School for the Deaf to go take the test.
Reporting in Indianapolis, Katiera Winfrey, Wish TV, wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook.